Hi, Pam. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll call this regular council meeting for July 22nd to order. It's 3 p.m. and I'll ask Councillor Harrison to please do the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. The town of Innisfil acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Right, thank you, Councillor Harrison. And just for the record, Councillor Heistad is joining us online today. So welcome, Councillor Heistad. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No, could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'll move those.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we'll move into 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes for July 8th. Councillor Bates.
I'll move the July 8th minutes for approval.
Thank you. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Carried. And we will move into item number 4, delegation. I'll ask Director Vickers to please introduce the delegation today.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barclay. So we have here before us Pam Warkentin. She is the Executive Director for CARST, and she has been our contact for our 100 Radon Test Kit Challenge that we did last fall, and she's here to do the community follow-up and presentation to Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Director Vickers, and welcome, Pam.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I do have slides to share, which I think I'll share my screen, but it's disabled at the moment. Unless you want to share your screen. Oh. Do you have my slides up?
Yes, they're up.
Okay, I just can't quite see them. So I'll walk through the presentation and just kind of say next screen, but I'll just, if you notice I'm not in sync with the slides that you're seeing, just let me know because I'm not able to see them behind you. Okay, on the first slide, I have just an outline. Take Action on Radon is a national initiative that is funded by Health Canada with a goal to raise awareness on radon across the country. We are tasked to do this by working with stakeholders across the country, including communities. The 100 Test Kit Challenge is one of our initiatives under that program, and it's a turnkey program that allows us to provide 100 test kits to the community to be able to distribute. So we do this while raising awareness in the community, but also helping community citizens by with the first step of testing, getting easy access to the tests. The 100 Test Kit Challenge is a turnkey program. We provide all the tools and resources for each step of the process. It's no cost to the participants or to the community, but it does require staff time to help us with organizing, distributing, and collecting the test kits. And so we certainly acknowledge Erica and her team at the office with helping us with doing this. On the next slide, we've got a map. So this is year 6 of our program, where we have worked with over 120 communities across 10 provinces and over 5 First Nations and 2 Métis groups. We've been able to distribute over 20,000 detectors. On average, we have about a return rate of 74%. And when we've surveyed after the first 3 years, when we surveyed participants who tested above 200 becquerels, we saw that about 30% of them have mitigated. So we have increased our awareness initiative to help support people through to the next step after they test. We want to encourage them to reduce levels if they are above the 200 level. On the next slide is a list of the communities that we've done over the last year. And so you can see that we have worked with other communities in Alberta, including Edmonton, Lacombe County, but we will present just the data that we did with Innisfil today. All right, on the next slide, just checking in, are you tracking? And you've got a picture of lungs on the slide.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay, good. So just a quick basics about radon. Radon is linked to lung cancer. So it is naturally occurring across our country. But the concern is that when we inhale it in, that radon is radioactive, it decays, and it causes lung tissue damage, which then leads to lung cancer. So lung cancer is the only known risk from radon exposure, but it is the leading cause of lung cancer for people who don't smoke, and it contributes to an increase for anybody who has a smoking history or is a current smoker. And Health Canada estimates about 3,000 Canadians per year are dying of radon-related lung cancer. On the next slide, you'll see a little house and buildings. So any building that has contact with the soil has the potential of having high radon levels. Radon comes from uranium. So uranium is a solid and it's in the soils all across Canada. Uranium is radioactive, which means it spontaneously decays and eventually becomes radon. Radon is a gas. So when it turns into radon, now it moves up through the soil and it is in the outdoor air around us, but at low levels. But our concern is that when it moves into buildings, which it can go into any building that has contact with the soil, it comes in and doesn't leave at the same rate. So it becomes higher levels inside our buildings. And so as we're exposed to higher levels over a duration of time, this increases our risk for lung cancer. Typically, higher levels are found on the basement or the ground contact floor, but we are finding in homes, as our air is getting more and more circulated throughout our homes, that it really can be throughout any level of the home. So Health Canada recommends that when we test, we use a 3-month test during the heating season. And those are the detectors that we provided in this project. On the next slide, you'll see a copy of a report. So at this point, each participant in this project should have received an individual report. They usually went out by email. If anybody contacted us, we usually try and help chase it down, or if they don't have access to email, we did mail out a couple copies. But we encourage anyone that participated in the project, if they haven't received their report by email, to let us know and we'll help them with getting that report. We saw 35 of the test kits distributed and about 27 reports were sent out. So there are a few people out there that have detectors that maybe haven't sent them back to us, and we still invite them. They can mail them back to our offices in Winnipeg to be able to make sure we get them that report. And so that's about a return rate of 77%. On the next slide, you'll see a pie chart that shows the results of the reports that we distributed. So for the 27 reports that we were able to issue for Innisfil, the green represents the reports that were below 100 becquerels, and we had about 37% here. The yellow represents the levels that are between 100 and 200 becquerels, and that's about 48%. And Health Canada recommends that all be below the 200 becquerel level. And so that's why we've differentiated between 2 and 600, or anything above 200 becquerels in the red. And so that was about 15% of the participants were above 200 becquerels. We do also specify in this report if there were levels above 600 or 1,000 by the purple there that you can see on the table, and the black, but we didn't have anybody. So all the participants that were above 200 were in that 200 to 600 level for this project. Now, as part of the project, we also collect some additional data and ask about survey about their housing construction. And so you can see on the next slide the type of home So the participants in this project were either single detached, and we did have some in semi-detached homes. Most of the participants were in single detached homes. We also ask if they're owner or renters, and you can see as well that the majority, or in fact all the participants that announced this or answered this question, were all owners. This is an important question because if we do have renters, especially renters that are above the 200 level that may need to take some action to reduce or mitigate their home, renters have the additional burden of needing to communicate with their landlord. And so we often recommend to communities to provide additional information to landlords to help support those participants. On the next slide, you'll see we also ask if people have tested for radon previously or if they have an existing radon mitigation system. And so you can see that all the participants in this project, this was the first time that they tested. And there are a couple homes that did actually have the radon rough-in. So you may know that in 2014, Alberta adopted the National Building Code, which includes radon rough-in measures, including some gravel and some sealing of the slab, as well as about a 12-inch rough-in pipe that goes into the slab. This doesn't fix or reduce the radon at all. It's simply there so that when a homeowner or participant tests, if they do need to mitigate, they can extend this pipe up and out. So as part of the new construction, it should just be capped and sealed in the basement of the home. Now, the data up until now has just been sort of some additional data to provide to you. On the next slide, you'll see the community report. And so this is the report that we will publish publicly so that people can see the results of the report. So it talks about the 27 homes that participated and the 15% that were above the 200. And so you can see in the homes, little pictures of the homes there, that the green represent below 100, yellow again between the 100 and 200, and then red are the ones that tested above the 200. And so the first page is community specific data. The second page has just general information about radon, so people know about the guideline levels of what the becquerels are and when they should reduce it. It has information about the building code and also about mitigation. So for anybody that needs to reduce it, it does have information about what a mitigation system is and research that we have on how effective it is. As well, because it is a public-facing report, it has information where someone else can get a test kit if they haven't tested as part of this project. On the next slide, you'll see that we have run this project in other communities in Alberta. And so the published reports that we have of the other communities, you can kind of see where you are in. So your closest neighbor, Lacombe County, we certainly did have more homes that we were able to test as part of the Lacombe County project. And we did see that they had a higher percentage as well of their homes were above guideline. And then also you can see Black Diamond and Sundre. There is also additional information that we feel is important for people as well as yourselves to know if you do have questions. So anybody who does need to reduce their radon level in their home, there is a certification program to help them with this. So there's certified professionals across Canada and certainly accessible in Alberta. The CNRPP is our national certification program for both mitigation professionals, people who fix the radon, as well as measurement professionals. And then on the next slide, you'll see that the Canadian Lung Association has a national grant that is available called the Lungs Matter Grant. It is open to all homeowners across Canada to apply, and it is meant for those that are in the low to moderate income. So anybody who has a long-term test like they would have received as participating in this project can then go and get a quote from a CNRPP mitigation professional. And if they qualify for the grant, then they can receive up to $1,500. And in order to qualify, you must be in the low to moderate income level, according to Stats Canada. And also, or if not, then if there is an occupant in the home that does have a lung cancer diagnosis, that also is an automatic qualification. There is also the SHARP program in Alberta, and so we have reached out to them. So you'll see on the next slide that they also have confirmed a few years ago that anybody could apply through their program and include the funds for radon mitigation. And then on the next slide, you'll see information that we have reached out to CRA as well about tax credits. So anybody who pays, purchase a radon test or hires a CNRC professional to measure their home can claim the costs on their taxes if they have work from home expenses under the maintenance category. And then lastly, there are some, on the next few slides, there are some radon action guides that Health Canada has developed. And so on the next slide, you'll see a little picture of the document. These are information for municipalities to help them with knowing what types of action they can take. So we've put a couple checklists on our slide just to shorten it up for you, but they are really quite detailed documents to support municipalities to make decisions like providing information on your website, testing your municipal buildings, ensuring building officials are aware of the building codes, those sorts of things. So they're just tips for municipality on how they can make sure that they are addressing radon within their area of responsibility, as well as to support their citizens. And so I really thank you for the time, and I certainly am available if there are any questions about my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Pam. It's very informative. Does anyone have any questions?
I do, Mayor Barkley.
Councillor Maceros.
Yeah, thank you very much for the report. Super interesting. I've got a question about the results for Innisfail, and I'm wondering if that is a typical distribution where most of the numbers are less than 200, or if it doesn't represent a typical distribution.
It does vary by community. So as we look at it across the province, according to Health Canada did a cross-country survey in 2010, 2011, and they published it about 2012. They looked at it by provincial level and saw about 8% in Alberta were above the 200 level. But as we go in and take a look at more detailed at a community level, we definitely are seeing higher levels than the provincial average. And so the fact that it was 15% is fairly, is not unexpected for the province of Alberta. We would have liked to have had more, more of the 100 test kits taken up, and it would be great to be able to get more people to test, to provide us a little bit more data that we could say that that it is really reflective. Once we start to get closer to 100 participants, we start to see that it actually is consistent with a typical average across the city or the area.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And one more question. Do you know where the 14.8% that falls between 200 and 600, where does that fall? Closer to 200 or closer to 600 or?
Yeah, that's a good question. The majority of them were just over 200. I'll have to double check that. I didn't double check that before coming in, but I know from my memory, it was they skewed a little bit closer to the just above the 200 level, but I will double check.
Okay, thank you. This was so very informative. I appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and through to Pam and to town administration staff. I'd like to thank both parties for undertaking this study. I know when it came out a little over a year ago, there was some discussion around should we or shouldn't we, but we did. And now we've got the data. So the question that I have, you would like to see 100 tests. Is there a way of, now that people see the results, they may want to get their homes tested. Do we contact our administration staff, or do we contact CARST, or how do we go about it? That's the first question. And more of a comment on the increase in radon in and around Innisfail. Would that be due to some of the geological formations that we sit on? Alberta, is sort of a shale deposit. I'm just wondering if that would have any effect on it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. It's in order to have radon in the homes, there must be a source, and so it's certainly we are seeing it across the country. So our prairies certainly are high in Manitoba. On average, we're seeing 30% of the homes. In fact, some of them are even much higher, like 90% in some of the communities in northern Manitoba. Saskatchewan, we're seeing as well, closer to 25-30% of the homes across the communities we've tested there. So yeah, there is a source in our soil all across our country. It doesn't need to be a large source. It seems like even if it's a silt or something that historically has just been spread across the prairies, it's enough that it provides the source that eventually decays into the radon gas that comes into the homes. And then just a follow-up to the previous question, I did go back and quickly check the results, and our highest was 280. So as I kind of was thinking, it was really close to that 200 level. And then to your point about repeat testing, typically we get funding to work with communities 1 year, and then we do try and encourage them ways to do legacy programs. But we certainly are willing to talk with administration if there is an interest to see what we can do to support testing again, if that's the interest in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Bates.
Yes, through to Pam. The question I would have is those commercially available electronic devices that are like $100 to $200, are they reliable, giving readings? For like
That is
daily, weekly, and long range is what I remember.
Yeah. So that is a good question and really good to point out the different duration. As I mentioned, Health Canada recommends that people test for 3 months during the heating season, because we do typically find in Canada that levels are higher when we close up our windows and keep our homes nice and airtight, but also because in the winter our homes are warm compared to the ground and soil beneath the houses, and so that pressure difference because of the temperature difference tends to draw more radon in, and so that's why we typically recommend people test during the heating season. But certainly anybody could test using a digital monitor at any point, and it would give them a snapshot. We don't recommend anything longer than 4 days is sort of our minimums for like a screening, but really a week would be better, and then longer is really even better to sort of get an idea of what the levels are. There are devices that are available that we don't recommend, and so CNRPP has done research on the different digital home level devices that are available, and so I can send you a copy of or a link to the report so that you can see that, but it is also available on the cnrpp.ca website. We found that Amazon is coming out with more and more devices that are not accurate, and so there is a recall. According, Health Canada has issued a recall for some of the devices that are not measuring accurately, so we do recommend people look at the listing that we've produced and purchase one of the ones off that. But they certainly are good for homeowners to use as long as it's one of the recommended ones.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Pam, thank you very much for the presentation, and the information is really interesting. I think I might have asked you this question when we first did this back last year, but is there any kind of a distinction in the data between wood basements and concrete basements?
We haven't dug into that. And there is I'm trying to remember a quick, we have started to look at some of our data as we've been getting it across the country over the last number of years to see if we can, differentiate and see some housing characteristics. Okay. The concern with the wood frame basements is that the membrane is the only area that really seals it. And what we find is, according to building code, that poly membrane that goes under the wood floor is 6 mil poly, and it tears really easily. So if there's been research done, so NRC, or National Research Council, has done research on the 6 mil poly to show that if it's airtight, it can be a barrier against radon. But what we find when we talk with homeowners and also, people in construction industry, that it tears so easily. And even the smallest tear provides a pathway into the conditioned space above the soil, and so can allow the radon into it. So it's a concern with a concrete floor as well, because cracks also can create that pathway. But the tears are just easier to occur in when it's just the poly membrane.
Okay. One last question, Pam, then. You indicated that the reports had gone out already to the participants. If somebody hasn't received their report, should they just contact you?
Yes, we encourage them to do this. We find that more and more emails are going missing. Either they're getting filtered out by spam filters, or people just get so many emails that they maybe didn't catch it. And so after going through the process of testing, we want to make sure they get the report. And so we'll make sure that they get that somehow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, just a question, Pam, about the cost of the kits. So if the town of Innisfail was going to continue this program, what roughly is the cost of having the kits in inventory?
Yeah, so if you wanted to work with us again, we would cover all the administration costs. Right now, I'm estimating about $30 per kit for our cost, if we can get a better rate than that from our labs, but that was about what they were giving us a quote for next year's purchase. Okay. So it would be about $30 per kit. Or the other is you can, if you just want to have some stock and do it kind of on your own, I can connect you with the labs and you can check in with them as well.
Okay, thanks. And I guess just one final question around risk. So, what risk is there to municipalities, I guess I would ask for on behalf of us? And, if there is testing going on, or if there's a new development that somebody is considering, should that area be tested, or is it more so what's coming inside the home, and when it's just bare land, there's not really an issue? Or can you detect levels on bare land as well?
We don't recommend testing prior to construction. Okay. It is something that the mitigation to reduce the levels isn't that expensive, and so we do recommend that you build a house, and then once it's occupied, that you would test and determine if the radon levels are high, that it would be reduced. There is changes that we are anticipating. So we're just in the final process right now of the change of the building code. So there is a code request being evaluated by the National Building Code. I believe we'll have information by the end of August whether that goes through, and that would further the building code to include a full passive system. So this would be, instead of the pipe being capped in the basement, it would be installed in such a way that it goes fully through the building and it exits outside the building. So it would provide it would provide some level of reduction, where right now there is no level of reduction. So that certainly would be something that when it passes, or if it does come into force, building officials, it would be great for them to be aware of, and we can provide support and education as well for that. And then also to ensure that the builders in the community are aware and are implementing that correctly. If it doesn't go through, it might be something that either as a community or a province, you look at whether or not you can advocate to adopt it to provide more protection for your new homes, new construction. But yeah, it is something that you can't deal with other than putting in those types of measures. You can't test and estimate what the levels are going to be pre-construction.
Okay, thank you. So Director Bickers, do we have kits left from the initial?
Mayor Barkley, so all the kits were returned
Okay.
Back to the Take Action on Radon program, but I will likely be having some discussions about what a future program could be, and we will bring that up likely in the budget discussions.
Okay, so do you want direction from council, or just leave it for now? And
why not? Wouldn't mind hearing from council what your set that expectation.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I will ask what people think. I know Councillor Harrison, this was kind of your initiative to begin with. So would you like us to continue on with this program, or have administration at least look into continuing
Yes,
on?
I certainly would, and also take a look at our development permits and that kind of thing, and some of this new construction, if, you know, as it ties in with the building codes. I really think it's important. I'd really like to see some data on the geological stuff underneath the ground, what's causing this, because, you know, in Alberta, I think we're all aware we're doing a lot of fracking, we're doing a lot of putting water back into the soil, and does that have an effect on, you know, forcing some of these gases to the surface? I don't know. It's just a research question, but the short answer is yes, I would like to continue this program.
Okay, so Councillor Harrison, do you want to make a motion directing administration to bring back in the future the radon testing initiative?
I would so move that we direct administration to bring back the cost of continuing the radon program in the town of Innisfil.
Okay, does anybody have any further comments? Councillor Heistad, I can't see you, so I'm not sure if you...
Oh, no, my only comment is, good work, Councillor Harrison, bringing this forward in the past couple of years. I'm in favor if this goes forward. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. So thank you again, Pam, for coming today. It's very informative, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah, and thank you. I really appreciate your support for this and look forward to seeing how we can support you in the future.
Great, thanks.
Bye.
Okay, we will move on to 5.1 and CEO report with CEO Becker.
Hey, Council, it's rather brief. If there's any questions regarding this report or anything else regarding administration and operations, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, somebody would like to make a motion, please, that we accept this as information. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we accept the CAO report as information.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. Then we'll move on to council action control. There's nothing there. Can I please have someone make a motion that we accept council action control as information? Councillor Bates.
Sure, I'll make that motion that we accept this for information.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move into 6.1 and the pedestrian safety review with Director Kennedy.
Thanks. Yeah, so I have in front some results from our pedestrian safety review that was completed. So back in March, administration was directed to conduct a pedestrian safety assessment on the main thoroughfares throughout Innisfil. So towards the end of April, we did engage Aptus Engineering to complete a pedestrian safety review where this entailed 20 intersections throughout town. The intersections were assessed with the following criteria. So they reviewed the existing available data, which included the 2019 traffic forecast model data, the 2023 Trails and Pedestrian Master Plan update, Trans-Canada Trail mapping, as well as the Dodds Lake parking lot design that was proposed. The second thing they reviewed was a control warrant analysis. Third, geometry and site triangle reviews, and then provided an interpretation and recommendation for those intersections. I didn't attach it because it was an extensive report. It was about 150 pages, so I thought I would just try and cut some pieces out for you. The first map just shows the location. I think we tried to highlight where all of the main thoroughfares were, as well as included a couple intersections I had heard council wanted in regards to Dodds Lake and up on Lakewood Drive and Aspen as well. We've included those. Out of the recommendations, they brought 3 levels of recommendations. One immediate, that would be areas that we could do within the operational budgets, mainly entailing, this would be additional signage, improved line painting, markings. Out of that, there was about 14 areas that they identified, so we can include that in our operating plan. Additional recommendation section that would be areas that would include some additional funding that would be required in order to get these ones done. Out of these 14 areas, really, I took about 3 intersections that we could definitely put in our immediate budgets and look at identifying some intersection improvements. And then ultimately, the ultimate recommendations, either the higher end recommendations that would require some significant capital dollars to put in. So we would definitely keep those in mind, though. So as there was no real immediate safety concerns identified throughout the report, administration is recommending to just incorporate this into our 3 to 5 year cycle of operating to continue making improvements towards our pedestrian safety. Administration will apply for a grant through the Trans-Canada Trail Program to upgrade the crossing at 56th Street and 52nd Ave. That's part of that Trans-Canada Trail network. Of note, I guess, for that intersection, so there was a study done or a survey done of that Trans-Canada Trail where one of our local residents actually did the trail in a wheelchair. And this intersection was identified as a concern within that survey, so this will help us fund as well that intersection. So I guess to highlight, one of the things I forgot to put in here was a concern in regards to 50th Street and the pedestrian crossing at 45th Avenue. We included that in kind of a lump section that was under 50th Street, and it was 44th Ave, 45th Ave, 46th Ave. We had them look at all those intersections. The recommendation was, because those intersections are within 200 meters of 2 controlled intersection crossings, the recommendation was no improvements required at this time. That's based on design standards and guidelines. Now, of course, if directed concerns, we can add additional, but it was no recommendation in regards to improving those intersections at this time, because of the intersection counts for pedestrians are quite low within there. So there's nothing driving us to do any improvements along that section of 50th Street.
All right. Thank you. Director Kennedy, could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I move that council accepts the draft pedestrian safety review report as information.
Thanks. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Councillor Bates.
Yeah, one question I have is there a chart somewhere that tells us what some of these signs are that are recommended? RA, 4L, 4R, 3A, 3L, 3R?
Definitely, yeah, we can provide council a copy of the report. It's the pedestrian crossing signs and doubling them up. So the signs that we have in place, they're recommending doubling those on both sides, just to provide that initial visual crossing. So that's what that RA pedestrian sign really is.
Okay, thank you.
So Director Kennedy, along 50th Street and I guess the 44, 45, 46 area that will probably become more congested soon, I'm guessing, from a new plaza that's going to be opening at some point this time. Do you have plans on kind of traffic control, like through that area? And I hear what you're saying, controlled intersection control, but in between, yeah, that's...
Mayor Barclay, yeah, so once we get that development in place, one of the recommendations is to, if we're finding that the pedestrian increases in volume, is to do another pedestrian count in that area. It was done in 2019 without that development there. So we could definitely look at that. I guess based on what we heard from the report is that because you're within 200 meters, if the road is really busy, go to where it's signalized and go across. But that doesn't mean that we can't review that and do an upgrade if we're finding pedestrian traffic is increasing significantly.
Like, and what about traffic flow, like even coming out of there, because there's a drive-through and you've got DQ next door with a drive-through and people trying to turn left onto 50th.
Yep.
Are you looking at having people turn right onto 50th, or has that been discussed at all, or?
Out of Starbucks, or the future development of Starbucks, I guess it is just an exit, right exit only.
Okay.
Out of the drive-through,
And will there be a right, yes,
and then a right in at the main intersection.
okay.
Yeah.
But will it be the same at DQ? Because it's right next door, right?
We have not looked at
Okay.
recommending changes to DQ.
Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Barkley, to CEO Becker and Director Kennedy. Just my thoughts on this study. I think there was a lot of good work that went into it. I do believe it's an opportunity for us to look at future safety in our community. But on 50th there, I really do see the issue. I can understand why the safety study is saying that we do have.
You just muted. You're on mute, Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's this crazy computer. So what I was saying about 50th itself is what I find is there's that extra pedestrian crossing by Dairy Queen, Tim Hortons area. People should be using the lights, right? Or the proper pedestrian crossing near Dark Woods there. And I see that as just a lot of education in my mind. But how are we going to move forward looking at this with budget and how we're going to implement some of these opportunities for us? Because I see this, that's how I'm looking at this study is trying to implement these changes between that 3 to 5 year period as well. So that's my long ramble, Mayor Barkley.
Yeah, to Councillor Hystad. So, yeah, the first two levels, we will, within the next 3 to 5 years, we'll look at incorporating that into our operating budget. So it's mainly signage, line painting, which we do every year. So we'll look at that. We'll continue to just update as we get these things taken off the list. We'll provide you with an update. Anything that's significant that we think is high priority, if it does require additional budget within the operating budget, we will come to council probably this fall to show you which ones that we see, and then have an estimated cost as well to those type of things. Like there was a number of them. I'll use the Lakewood Drive and Aspen Way. It's relatively simple, except there is a lane connector or a pathway connector that's required. So that is additional dollars that we'll need some funding for, and we'll put some cost to that of what that looks like.
Okay, so I still have a bit of a concern on the Starbucks area and DQ. I'm wondering if it would be wise to reach out to Dairy Queen and talk to them about future traffic flow. I don't know whether that's the right thing to do it.
Yeah, I think I will take your advisement, Mayor
Yeah.
Barkley. It's more into the planning and infrastructure discussion. Usually that is identified during those developments, and obviously the area is changing. So I think we understand that we need to reevaluate, make sure we're doing things properly.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion. All in favor? All right, carried. And we will move on to 7.1 with Director Vickers and the budget, 2025 budget.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So at last council meeting, administration brought forward a report that outlined the budget, the 2025 budget and the current schedule. At that meeting, administration recommended completing a budget survey to support our 2025 budget, and so to make sure that we're following our new budget policy that was passed just last fall. Through that, we did reach out to many municipalities, and we received feedback from Blackfalds, Olds, Okotoks, the City of Red Deer, and Ponoka. Their budget surveys have been reviewed, and we did create the list of questions administration is proposing for the survey. The questions are attached for council's review and comment. The vast majority of the questions follow the same style. So first, we have a heading, and then we're going to ask how satisfied you are with that service. So very satisfied, satisfied, either neither satisfied or dissatisfied, and then satisfied, very dissatisfied. And then a follow-up question, should the town invest more, less, or the same amount on this service? We did ask the following headings, so you can see those there. So we have things like policing or RCMP, fire protective services, bylaw enforcement, and so forth. So our communications team will create the survey based on the questions attached and have it open to the public by August 6th. Administration has actually extended the survey deadline date so that we would actually be able to attend the fall registration night on September 10th. So we'll actually bump it back and close it on September 13th now, just so that we can kind of be, in front of the public that way. So we did have the following budget schedule. It's been updated to show the new release date, the addition of fall registration night, and a later budget survey results date. So updated survey release date, we do want to pick August 6th as the release date, so that's just after the long weekend, with registration night being September 10th, and then the budget survey results will be received back to the town by the 13th. So the list of questions were attached for council's review. We do actually have the survey ready. We could share it with council before it's open, just so everyone can kind of go through the questions and see how it is as well, if you'd like. If there's any questions?
Okay. Okay. I'll just have somebody make a motion that we accept this report as information. Councillor Wing.
Mayor Barkley, I would move that council accept the report as information.
Okay, thank you. And any questions? Councillor Bates.
Yeah, so I looked through the questions, and the one question I have is, I think it's an opportunity missed if we're, folks are doing the effort to do another survey. If we don't frame a question somewhat about willingness to pay for increased services, because it's so easy to say, yeah, I want more. I think there should be some attention. And I don't know if anybody else has ever done that, but some kind of a little section in it that has something about willingness to pay more. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add on to that, Director Vickers. I would like to see a preamble in most of the questions. So even around 1% tax increase equals X number of dollars. There's question about capital investment, and maybe over the last 3 years our average spend has been X million. Did you know that 2 blocks of infrastructure is $900,000? RCMP, our budget is what, 1.6, 1.7? 30% is covered by the federal government. Because I agree with Gavin or Councillor Bates that it's so easy to say yes, I want more, but and there's also a question around. I think you asked it like something about value for the services, the tax value for services. So if you could list what the taxes are paying for, I know you have that in our budget presentation. And I think that it's such a good slide to have, and I don't know. I know I'm creating more work, or we're creating more work for you, but maybe it's too late because you've already got the survey done. But I really think there needs to be context around this, because everybody's going to say yes, yes, yes.
Mayor Barkley, we can definitely, it has not been released yet. We can amend any questions. We can add questions, absolutely. We can definitely go through and add a bit of a preamble, at least a descriptor of what each heading is.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a lot, I don't think, but just to give people an idea of what we spend now and related to taxes. And then are there going to be hard copies available as well? Would you pass those out to maybe places like the senior center next door or other opportunities when you're in front of people? And
Yep, Mayor Barkley, we'll definitely reach out to the senior center to see if they would like hard copies for sure, or any other we would have available, but it is primarily meant to be an online survey.
Yeah, I get that for sure. No, that's great, thanks. Anybody else have any questions? If not, do we have a motion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. And we will move into 8.1 with Director Jenkins and 2024 mid-year development update.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. We're just looking to provide council with a mid-year update on building permits and land development activities. So as of July 1st, the town has issued 78 building permits with a total value of just over $9 million. We've issued permits for 12 new dwelling units within detached homes, so that does include secondary suite units as well as 12 units within multifamily dwellings. So both building activity and volume is up substantially over the past few years, with 2024 being on track to be one of our highest construction activities years since back to 2012. Juanita, if you want to just put the spreadsheet on there. You can see sort of going across that very top line, sitting just over $9 million. So we're almost surpassing what we did in terms of construction value for all of 2023, with substantial increases in the number of residential dwelling units being created. Just kind of note, there have been 13 building permits issued for the installation of residential solar panels so far this year. And then moving into land activity and inventory, there currently are 27 available residential lots. This is exclusively within new development areas, so this isn't infill or vacant lots that do exist in some of our older areas. Within Napoleon Meadows, there are still 2 R1 lots remaining within, so the Upper Vista, north side of Dodds Lake. We still have not seen any further progress towards the Phase 1 subdivision conditions being completed, so we don't have a timeline when to expect that. Bella Vista, there's still 8 remaining R1C lots, 3 remaining R1N, and 6 remaining R2 lots, so those are the duplex lots available, and they don't have a timeline or any current plans to move forward with a Phase 2 right now. Hazelwood, they have 7 R1B lots remaining there. The property for the future lots is currently for sale, with no current plans to pursue that Phase 5 independently. Woodlands development area in the south, no current activities planned there. And then the Napoleon Lake South area, so that's the town's potential development going through those stages, with lots being available in late 2025 would be the earliest. So just looking for if council has any questions and to accept the report as information.
Okay, thank you, Director Jenkins. Could I please have someone make the motion to accept this report as information? Councillor Maceras.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'd like to move that we accept this report as information.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? It's a good report. Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move on to 8.2, Next Generation Economy Initiative, with Director Jenkins and John Powell.
Okay, so John's gonna run support here, and I'll walk council through this report. So we're looking just for council's approval of participation within the Next Generation Economy Initiative, Business Retention, Expansion, and Workforce Development Project through a partnership. So I guess I'll preface, any of the members of our Economic Development Committee will have seen some of the information related to this initiative. We are coming to council just to verify the expenditure that we're looking to make out of the 2024 operating budget, as the town of Olds needs the information by the end of this month in terms of a decision, so that the project can move forward with the surveys and such going out in October. So for some background, the town of Olds has partnered with Mountain View County, Red Deer County, Community Futures, Central Alberta, Olds College, amongst others, to initiate the Next Generation Economy Initiative. They received $262,000 in grant funding from Prairies Can, which is federal economic development funding, for a 3-year project that includes creating the Regional Business Support Network. So that includes 2 staff members that they have been able to hire, that will work as business support, both on sort of business development as well as the website marketing, that type of support for businesses throughout the region, as well as the creation of an industry and growth plan. So the project consists of two primary components, one being this BREWD project that we're talking about today, which is business retention, expansion, and workforce development, as well as an industrial cluster development component. So we have been invited to participate and benefit from this work occurring in our region. The BREWD component will consist of a business retention and expansion survey, as well as workforce interviews with primary employers. The town will receive community-specific data, which can be applied to our ongoing work with economic development, and we'll also be able to participate in regional strategy creation and access services through the regional business support network. So as mentioned in the motion, project participation requires a $6,000 contribution from the town. This would be money coming out of existing budgeted operating dollars. So participation in this regional collaboration will establish up-to-date and compelling data to support ongoing efforts with respect to the power of place and our core functions. Again, so we last did a BRE survey in the fall of 2021, prior to the adoption of the power of place strategy. The town initiated that with some support from the chamber, so we are due to do a new business retention survey at this time. Administratively, we're quite supportive of participating in this project. We think it's important to work within the region and think it's good value for the work that we'll be able to see done.
Done?
Yes,
Is that it?
sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Unless John has anything he wants to add at this point?
No, I think you've covered it, and unless there are any questions.
There are. Would somebody like to make the recommended motion? Councillor Maceras?
Sorry to be a bit of a motion hog today.
Okay.
I thought I should probably make this motion. That council approves participation in the Next Generation Economy Initiative, Business Retention, Expansion, and Workforce Development BREWD project with required $6,000 contribution to be funded from the 2024 operating budget.
Questions? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to Director Jenkins. The $6,000 that you're requesting from our operating budget for 2024, is that for the 3 years or is that per year?
That's the total dollar value, so that's for the 3-year project.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have questions. So I'm curious. I know this came to the Community Economic Development Advisory Group. We decided not to recommend this to council that time because we didn't feel we had enough information about it. And I guess I'm really confused about the why in this when we're already doing this work in our community. I think our power of play strategy lays this out, and we have been working on it. We did as Director Jenkins said, we did a BRE survey in 2021, and whether that needs updating or not, I don't know, but I think the business visits, the other components, I find that we have this whole power of play strategy, and we're not kind of ticking the boxes in a lot of that at this point in time. So I'm curious about going now outside the region, like where is this office, the support network office, where is it located? I see that I think on the attachment with this, there was an Olds committee already set up. Is there going to be like an Innisfail committee set up? Like how are we participating? And like I just have so many questions about how this is going to work. And I think it was in March, is it March, where at the CED advisory group, we had profiles for, I wrote it down because I knew I wouldn't remember, the manufacturing, recreation, emerging clean tech, clean energy, and then we also had an energy, and we had those profiles that weren't quite where they needed to be. And so where is that work sitting? And like, I just don't understand what we're going to get out of this that we're not already doing in our Power of Play strategy and all the work that's going on in this community right now. And I get the regional thing. I mean, we're members of CAPE. You know, where does CAPE fit in all this, or does it? Or, you know, what about the missing pieces? Where's RDP, for example? Where's Didsbury? Like,
I'll take a crack at a few of those, and John,
yeah,
you
sorry,
can
that's
fill
a lot
in.
of questions.
So yes, the staff members as part of the Regional Business Support Network are housed in Olds. They are available throughout the region. That's part of how the funding is structured, is that they are available for businesses throughout. In terms of the value and tying into the Power of Place, I think we did do a BRE survey in 2021. It is something that we need to do on an ongoing basis. It's not kind of a one and we did that and now it's over. At that time, the vision was that some of that work would be things that the Chamber of Commerce could help us with. At this point, we aren't there yet with the capacity of the Chamber. I think in terms of the amount of the expenditure, we would be getting, you know, a professional survey. We would be getting that data coming out of it, as well as, you know, being at the table to support some of the regional efforts. Again, yes, we are working through the tactics from our own Power of Place strategy, but I think there's a lot of other things going on. In terms of CAPE, I know CAPE is a member of at least one of the committees within, or like the executive director from CAPE sits on one of the committees that have been created as part of this project in terms of tying in some of those additional regional components. John, you want to add anything else there?
Yeah, just to say that, you know, throughout the Power of Place, you know, there is a lot of reference and recommendations for us to work regionally and collaborate with regional partners. So, you know, we are fulfilling a lot of the recommendations and goals of the strategy by pursuing this project. So, you know, it talks about regional collaborations, so regional working with agencies and through partnerships and collaborations. So, you know, as I said, look at tactical plans and you will see, you know, a lot of recommendations there.
And then the results we're getting 3 years from now on this, or there's 2 phases, correct?
No, yeah, for the BRE survey, that's within the next 6 months. I think they have to have, the surveys will be happening in that October range, then closing, and then the reports coming back in the early new year, I believe is the way that timeline goes out. And then the workforce piece, same kind of timeline on that in terms of they do their interviews with the various employers that we help to connect them with. But the BREWD component, the first phase is sort of this next 12 months, and then the industrial cluster development is a little longer term.
Well, one of the benefits we'll get out of this is having a report specifically for Innisfail, highlighting where we stand out, where we're different from, you know, a lot of the other municipalities and counties in the region. So it really help us to know, you know, where we should focus, you know, our attention to make sure that we do stand out and focus on our specific strengths.
I sound like the negative Nelly, but are we not doing that already? Like, I thought that's all the work that we've been doing to date. That's kind of what our work is already about. And I don't know, I'm just having a bit of a difficult time with this. And I understand the regional collaboration. I just think there's so much work going on out there. I mean, we did our own labor force study, correct? Through that was delivered to?
We did do the labor force study part. We did not get into the workforce development actual strategy component of that. Yeah, and I think, again, from an administrative standpoint, it's the opportunity to be a part of this group of administrators as well. You know, yes, the town of Olds is sort of driving this. They've put a lot of the legwork into the front end of actually getting this grant and getting the project off the ground. But being able to sit at that table and be a part of what they're working for, I think is important for us as a community. And yeah, some of this work is things that we aren't going to have the capacity to do in the next 12 months. Like, we're not going to get a business retention expansion survey done internally in that kind of time frame.
Councillor Bates?
Well, I guess just hearing that dialogue, we've got 3 of council on the Economic Development Committee, and it surprises me to hear that the committee, don't know when, had recommended against presenting it to council. Is that?
Well, let me reframe that. It was presented to the committee at the last meeting in June, May, I think, yeah. And we didn't feel there was enough information to send it to council to recommend approval of it, so.
Okay, well, many of us are less versed with, yeah.
Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Obviously, I was part of that, being on the ECDEV committee. Listening to administration, though, for the $6,000 spread over the 3 years, if you feel that there is value in that and this is going to complement what we're already doing, I see value in it. I mean, if it was a substantially larger amount of money, I might question it, because we did, the report that we did have in the CD, it was confusing. It was confusing as to what they were trying to do. However, the way that it's framed here and the way that you're speaking and the capacity that you have to do parts of this that are non-existent, then yeah, I do see value in it. And at this point in time, I do think that I would support it. Just like I said, just in the fact that it complements what we're already doing, and the fact that you bring forth and say that there's value in it. So
are you sitting at that table, John, or Director Jenkins, or?
Yes.
And how often do you meet? Or would you be meeting, I guess?
I haven't got an answer to that yet,
Okay.
but we're not meeting yet because
Well,
we
of
haven't
course. No,
committed
I
to it
understand
yet.
that,
So,
yeah.
but, you know, we would be meeting sufficiently frequently.
Okay. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to admin, through to Director Jenkins and EDO Powell. So what I'm hearing you say is that this is complementary to CED as opposed to competing with CED, and that it's at council today because of a timeline that we need to make if we decide to join. So that's yeah, okay.
Yes, we were going to bring it forward at the September, I think it was, CED meeting, but because the timelines have been brought forward, we've had to expedite that.
Okay, and do you see anything in this BREWD plan and outcomes that is competing with what we're trying to do with our own CED plan?
Nothing that, nothing's jumped out at me, no.
Okay, thank you.
CEO Becker?
Some of my response will be, it's already heard already. This is complementary. Right now, administration is talking about updating the work plan. The committee will likely see that in the fall, onto council for consideration approval. So that's work plan. That also, there is some things brewing behind the scenes for potential leveraging external dollars to update the power place documents. The data that's going to be collected in this work in supporting regional collaboration, but also local. local collaboration, meaning internal, would be generated through this process. So I myself do not see any conflict with having support administration on the table. Regional perspective, there's nothing I can recognize that would jeopardize our own internal property, intellectual property, and advancement for opportunity. So I guess I'm struggling a bit with questioning resourcing, but certainly for $6,000, certainly if we come out better, they're just putting it back to council. It seems to be a challenge with this recommendation, which largely could have been addressed probably through our administrative director through the CAO, but sorry to challenge you, council. I'm just not quite certain. It seems like it's kind of a challenge for advancing this this recommendation.
Not a challenge, just had some questions about it, and I'm just trying to see how it fits, that's all, because we're, like I said, I thought we're doing so much of this in the power of place, so Councillor Wing and then Hystad.
Okay, thanks. I just have one quick question. The briefing note for this talks about Red Deer County being involved, yet I don't see Red Deer County anywhere in the report. They talk about Mountain View County, but not Red Deer County. Can we confirm that Red Deer County is actually participating in this?
In our meeting with staff, Red Deer County, the city of Red Deer, I believe Red Deer Polytechnic is participating, not necessarily directly in BREWD, because it's not really what they would be doing, but they are also involved in the conversations as well.
Okay. I just feel really strongly that from that physical location perspective, like, yeah, I think if we're talking about regional, we need to be including the city and the county in all of that work. So I just wanted to verify. Thank you.
Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Barkley. I would agree with Councillor Wing. As to moving forward with this, I think it's value add to what we're doing already on the great work, not only at council but administration. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And when we get into this, would there be any kind of a memorandum of understanding between the groups, or is it just kind of go and participate?
I would anticipate, yes, it would be, but
Okay.
I will need to
Yeah.
have further
Yeah,
conversations
just
with them.
curious about that. Okay, so we have a motion, all in favor? Okay, carried. Don't forget to include Varma in the discussions. Okay, we'll move on to correspondence and information. There's a letter in here from Desmond Butler with respect to Nathan Flewelling. Have we had any kind of connection to Mr. Butler? Seelbacher? I know you've tried, but
I tried, not responded, just to ask for some guidance on expectation for the town to consider. Have not heard back.
Sure.
So not sure if the council wishes to advance any acknowledgement, but we certainly can through social media.
yeah, I would like to see us maybe see administration continuing to try to continue to try to connect and maybe even through Murray Ray or something. If,
Yeah.
see if there's something we can do
Sure.
to acknowledge.
Just Mayor Barkley, sorry to interrupt. Just with the folks in the gallery, they're here for open mic. Just
Okay,
don't want to.
yeah, no, for sure, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they're getting
Yeah,
tired.
we're almost done, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe on-
So we'll just have a motion that we accept the correspondence as information. Councillor Dunham,
Mayor Barkley, I'd like to make that motion.
all in favor? Carried. Okay, and then we'll go into council reports. We'll begin with Councillor Wing today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I don't have anything official to report for the last 2 weeks. However, just I did attend both the Lacombe Days Parade and several events with Westerner Days, and just really would love to encourage us to be involved in Westerner Days in the future, perhaps from the perspective of having the Central Alberta communities come together and do a pancake breakfast together, something in Red Deer that puts our names in front of all of the people that come to the event. And yeah, the Lacombe Days Parade was amazing. They did a great job of engaging their I don't think there was a business in the city that wasn't there. So anyway, just two good, fun events, but I haven't done any work for 2 weeks, so sorry.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I too feel like I've been on vacation, so not a whole lot. And my visitors from Singapore are gone. Thank you.
Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and through to council and the delegation. Yes, very quiet the last week. We had a very interesting meeting, a long meeting. It was 8 hours in Red Deer with RD Mug, the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group on water. It started off as a strategic planning meeting, but very quickly it switched to a priorities meeting. And because we're coming into an upcoming election in just a little over a year, the membership, and there were 28 members at the table, so there was a great turnout, great discussion. Felt that we'll set some priorities, 3 to 5, over the next year and work on those and leave the actual guts of a strategic plan to the new board, because undoubtedly there's going to be new people sitting at that table. So what we came up with, it was led by Strategic Steps Incorporated. We've used them before in this chambers. It's Ian McCormick and his group led us through an exercise. And the three priorities that we're going to concentrate on are, our membership doesn't know who we are. We haven't really, we've dealt with issues as they come up, purely reactive, not proactive. But with the drought issues and the things that have come up over the last 6 to 8 months here, RD Mug now has a focus, and I could really sense that there's 28 people that want to get really heavily involved with water. So membership is going to be the first thing that we're going to concentrate on. You'll start to see news releases, that kind of thing. And then we talked about storage. You've heard about the Ardley Dam just downstream from the petrochemical plants, and a lot of people were looking at, oh, that's strictly for irrigation. It's not. I'll give you an example. I was out at Glenifer Dam a couple nights ago, and they're releasing water. That dam is full. We don't have any storage capacities in Alberta, regardless of the Bow and the Old Man. And the Red Deer, we're really in good shape. We're only using 46% of the water that the Red Deer produces. However, for industrial development, we have a premier that's saying she wants Red Deer to be 1.1 million people by 2050 or whatever. How are we going to handle that water demand? So these are the kind of things. So when we talk about storage, that's why second priority will be really to promote and lobby and advocate for the Ardley Dam. We've already got $5 million to do the initial study, so it's in place. And then, of course, the encourage water conservation. I think we all have a part to do as residents, constituents, municipalities, and I think in Innisfil we're doing a great job, as was with other communities. So that'll be the third priority. So you'll start to see some literature. We haven't lost our executive director. He's now part-time. He's now the CAO of Brazeau County, and I was talking to him very briefly, and I said, how do you like it up there? Because I used to work out of Brazeau County. And he says, boy, they have a lot of equipment. Through to Director Kennedy, they have all those roads. So he's pretty happy. But yeah, so we've got him. I don't know what the plans are going to be. They'll probably leave that position, I believe, until the new board gets in and gets landed. So that's my update. I did not submit a written report this time. I will for next council meeting. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Hystad? Is Councillor Hystad still there? We're not sure. We'll go to Councillor Dunham first, and maybe we can find him.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I have nothing to report since our last meeting. I will be attending the disc golf on the 24th.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maceras?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I have nothing additional to my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heistad? Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, and I've submitted a report, so that's good. So we'll move into number 11, the open mic session. I understand we have a couple of people with us today that would like to come up and address council, so welcome. If you just want to, there's a button on there if you just want to turn the microphone on. CO Becker will show you how.
I'm Audrey Jeske. I live in Bella Vista, and when I bought the house out there, I was told that the pond out there would be aerated and it would be a nice pond. Well, as it turns out, the weeds are growing up through the pond now, and it's getting slimy around the edges, and it's turning into a slough. I pay a lot for my taxes out there, and I just thought, you know, I think the town wants to develop the area further to get the tax dollars to come in, but nobody's going to come in and want to live on a slough. Let's be realistic. Nobody wants to live on that, and including myself. I don't know where to start to begin to try to get people aware that, you know, this is a real problem out there. I know the builder is not one to be proud of. I'm considered very popular with him because I keep standing up to him for the things that I've paid for that I want. And I don't know where to go about fixing this pond up. I did bring it up to somebody at the town here, and he brought out a piece of paper and he showed me there's a picture of the pond, and they're going to make the pond into 3 different ponds. Well, that's going to be 3 slough holes instead of just 1. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the town, and they want to have some tax dollars come in from this place, but nothing's going to come in, and people are very upset in that area because whoever brought the builder in there did not do the research on him, and he's a very poor builder, very, very poor. Every one of us has complaints, and we can't get anything fixed. It's quite a disaster. And then we were promised that there would be a commercial area put in there just across 42nd Street, I guess it is, and there's been nothing done. Whoever came out and did the weeds about a week ago, I don't know if it was a town, I don't think it was them, but I think it was a town, and they did a phenomenal job. They really did. They cleaned up all the weeds, they even cut them down, and they come and cleaned them up as well. So to us, that was really something. And the foxtail out there is just, I don't know what to do. I mean, it's beyond everything. Eh? We have the geese out there, and people think they're bad, but you know what? What do the geese really hurt? Nothing. They leave a few droppings here and there, but it's not a big deal. But the rest of it being becoming a swamp is what's really, you know, you get this odor off of it, and you're out on your deck, and you get this odor off this swamp. Like, I thought, wow, the house is 3 years old, and I got to put up with this stink too. You know, somebody's got to hear me and understand where we're as residents out there, we're coming from.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming forward with this. CO Becker, do you have a comment or direction?
Yeah, just we connected before the meeting.
Yeah, we did.
Give 'em cards so we can arrange a meeting, pull in staff, we can outline the purpose of the ponds, any plans, and then explain, you know, the intent, maintenance, and then, you know, if there's anything to rectify, we'll move into that. If not, then we'll certainly explain. But I think the first approach would be to either I call you or you call me, and we can arrange a meeting with our director of operations.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good, you know. It's just that I want to see more people out there as well, more of a community out there. I'd like to see the commercial come to be. They told me that there's development, and you know, and I just thought, for the town's sake too, I'd like it to be better.
Yeah, we would too. No, thank you so much for coming today and sitting through the whole meeting to get to this, but.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And we'll move on to upcoming events. Just have somebody please make a motion that we accept these as information. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'd make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried, and then we'll have a meeting, or a motion to go in camera, please. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'll motion that we move in camera.
Thanks. All in favor? Okay, thanks.